morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world, and welcome to The Infinite Way, where spirituality meets humanity. It's a beautiful podcast, and I hope you enjoy it. And we're excited because today on The Infinite Way, we are going to welcome Rovielle Joy. Raviel is a spiritual bridge builder whose journey has been guided by a deep love of humanity, a devotion to the Creator, and a lifelong exploration of healing and consciousness. Drawing from more than a decade of experience in spiritual healing, education, and transformational work, she helps people move beyond stress, self doubt, and uncertainty into greater spaces of peace and clarity and alignment. Joining us all the way from Queensland, Australia, Raviel brings a message of hope, healing, and remembrance, and invitation to reconnect with the wisdom that already lives within each of us. Welcome, Raviel.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much, Grandmother Enolia.
It's so
Appreciate it.
wonderful to have you here. I have been waiting months to get you on.
Oh, great.
And
Thank
everything is just such divine alignment. And as you come, there's a plethora of things that you bring. And, the first thing that I want to deep dive into is just you as the person. You bring
Mhm.
such beauty and joy when you walk into a space, when you present yourself, and you have a beautiful story of how you started your spiritual work. Would you share a little bit about you, your background, and how you came to your first gift?
Thank you so much. Yes, it would be my pleasure. And what a blessing to actually connect with you. I feel like we're kin, and I have known you for a long time. So uh, going to your answering your question, when I first started my spiritual bridging or connecting with the spiritual realm, today I call myself a universal spiritual bridger. And what that means, and that was given to me by Creator, and I call the energy of love, God. Uh, I connect with different dimensions and speak and interpret the messages of energy and um, any any spirits that is of love and of higher frequency that want to come and share the message to help the person that I'm speaking to or needing clarity. And so let's go back to the first time this happened to me. I grew up in a Christian home. My background, I was born in Philippines, and my family, pride ourselves as the one who founded and built the Methodist Church in Philippines in one location. And until today, my relatives, they're the deacons, they're the leaders, that is still very much involved in that church. But today I'm in Australia, and when I was 8, I left my beautiful family there with mom and dad and my brother. When I was 8, we moved to Australia. And growing up here, it was quite different away from my Christian community, but mom and dad still brought us to church every day. And today they still go to church. And I grew up in that beautiful, conventional bubble of spirituality, which I call Christianity. And we went to different denominations. And, I grew up becoming a youth leader and choir singer. I was very involved up until I was 29. But there were times when I was a young teenager, probably 14, 15. Suddenly I would be in the congregation, sitting down, listening to the pastor, and I could see suddenly this cloud. I remember the first time the pastor was on the stage with a white background wall, and he had this big cloud following him around his body, and it
Wow.
was very prominent above his head. And sometimes it would be like this funnel that looked like a cone shape above his head that would be moving. And this pastor, he founded this specific church that we went to in Victoria in Australia, and he spoke with such authority, such love and compassion, and he really was very fervent in God's word and his love for God. And so when I would see him, he'd be walking with this cloud following him. And I'm wondering, does anyone else see this cloud?
Yeah.
Uh, that was the first time. And then other times, I would just be curious. I wasn't afraid. And then it was a youth event, a lot of young people. There was a guest speaker. And this is a church where it's quite modern. It was inside an auditorium where everything is enclosed. And there was only the sliding doors at the back. And from there, it was the foyer. And then there was the outside sliding doors. So it's quite um, enclosed with no windows to any outside um, outside wind. But I was sitting there and I could feel this strong wind moving inside. And it's only like kind of a, this was three times I felt it in different what do you call it, meetings.
Right.
And I felt, okay, this is not the air conditioner. It's not a special thing that they have as a machine blowing. But then what happened was I could see this wind, and it looked like bright, glittery light moving. And I'm like, that's interesting. I don't expect to see wind. and and I could hear it and I could sense it on my face, but it was a very it had this sense of this warmth and
Mm.
this sense of protection. Somehow that was my feeling when it was blowing on my face. And again, I was wondering, does anyone else feel this wind? I didn't ask and I didn't discuss it with anybody. Uh, and then the interesting thing was, as I continued to be more curious about this wind, um, there was a sense of taste that I could feel from be- becoming more curious. And so I'm like, this wind tastes something like a really thick custard that's very fulfilling and satisfying. And I imagine, I can't remember, but I imagine it could be similar to breast milk because it has this sweetness and this thick creaminess to it. But that was like, oh, that's interesting. So all these senses came as I was inquiring about what this wind was about. And so fast forward when I lived in Japan by myself, and for a year, I did not go to any church. I wanted to just relax from being a choir leader, or I'm sorry, choir singer, a youth leader, a Bible study, cell group leader. It was, yeah, I was very committed, and I was 23 years old. I just graduated. I got my education degree. I was a teacher, and I went to Japan because of green tea ice cream.
Oh.
I was also very committed to my sweet tooth. So what that meant was my university friend, she was Japanese, and she said, Rovielle, I really appreciate you helping me. English isn't my first language. Come and let's have dinner with my mom. She's visiting from Japan. And at this dinner, we was the first time I tasted sashimi, like fish that weren't cooked. And
Yes.
I was waiting for the chef to cook it. Like, are we gonna cook this? Growing up in the yeah, in Philippines, this was we
That's a
cook
big deal. Yeah.
so then I learned how to enjoy sashimi, and then dessert came. It was green tea ice cream. And I thought, look, I've only had chocolate, vanilla, and strawberry, and peppermint choc chip. That was my favorite. But green tea, I think that's what you drink. And it's an ice cream and it's green. So I had my doubts. But as soon as I put it in my mouth, I had fireworks again. And it was a full body experience. And the next year I was in Japan because I just wanted to be immersed in green tea ice cream. But God had other plans actually. So I went there, with my excitement. I graduated first time away from home. I was 22, and I went with a job. I was interviewed in Australia, got a job, English teacher. And for 1 year, I didn't do anything religious. I didn't go to church. I just wanted to be on my own. I really just wanted to rest. And I said to God, okay, this is a place I don't know anyone. I don't speak Japanese. Um, this is now really between you and I. You say all these things that you're unconditionally loving, you're our protector, you're our savior, and also you're our guide. Having known that all my life, and that's all I've known all my life, let's do this. I've got no one else to rely on but
Right.
you, God. So for one year, I had experienced so many, you would call them divine appointments, divine intervention, meaning that it was almost impossible to happen, but I was supported in a way that felt like that was a coincidence, or wow, that was magic. How did that person just be at the right place at the right time when I needed a translator?
Right.
So so I was very convinced that first year, yes, God loves me. I'm important to God, and I actually have this real tangible relationship with God, this invisible power that is constantly around me, supporting me, loving me, but also um, just allowing me to also enjoy my own free will. And and yet when I feel like I want to do something that I know God may not approve of, knowing from my Christian background, which means like, okay, God, I'm not going to church. I really felt this uh, unconditional love. It's fine. You're okay not to go to church. I was a bit guilty, but eventually I felt self love. That's how this power of um, relationship building with God during that first year away from um, the world that I knew, which was church and which was my church community. I really grew in my relationship one on one with this unseen power that everyone talked about. And that allowed me to have self love without feeling guilt that I'm not reading my Bible, I'm not going to church, I'm not um, talking to some unbeliever and they should go to church with me. Um, I felt self-love and this sense of self-esteem of Rovielle, it's okay to just be who you are. Actually, if
Yeah,
you want to sleep in, sleep in. If you want to read a different book, read a different book. If you want to stop listening to praise and worship songs and listen to other genres, perfect. Do that. Just do what
yeah.
feels good.
It's so beautiful that you're sharing this story because what you're really saying to me and what I'm also hearing is sometimes we have to just stop and take pause. Stop, take pause, and sit with ourselves and just sit in the silence of ourselves to have a true relationship, that it's not outside of ourselves. And what you're sharing here is so important. And I really hope people really can see what you're really saying, because what you're saying is that instead of going outside of yourself, it doesn't mean that one, church was bad or good or wrong or right or anything like that. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just basically saying outside of ourselves is one thing, but inside of ourselves is a completely different other. And that's so, so, so important, you know? Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes, exactly.
And Japan, and going to a whole nother country by yourself on your own, and another foreign speaking country by yourself.
Mhm.
And I'm experiencing that, and you don't know the language, but then you get to know the language, and you pick up on it. But that's huge, especially at that age. That's huge. That's a huge first step to step away from home and everything. So, I want to bring us to Australia because you know that I just traveled from Australia. I got to see you. It was so beautiful seeing you in person. And the one thing that no one really talks about, but is ever present in all of our faces, is the land in Australia, and how spiritual it is, and how the ancestors are truly walking the land in Australia, and that you can go in certain locations and fully embrace the ancestors and ancestry there. How is your relationship with where you are? Because your area I know is phenomenal, because I got to go within 5 or 6 hours of your area. I was in Mullumbimba and Byron's Bay in that area, and it was really, really beautiful, really spiritual. Like you could walk into the valley and know the difference and feel the difference. So share with us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I would love to. Thank you so much for asking me this question because it's quite profound for me, this experience. So, grandmother Enoya, I grew up in Victoria, which is a different state. It takes 2 hours by flight. But my husband and I, we were working corporate. He was interpreter. I was a teacher, an early childhood teacher, and I loved being a kindergarten teacher. And I did that for 11 years. And when we got married in Victoria, uh, we were always busy, but when we would come home, our bills reflected something of a gap. We thought, wow, regardless how much water, electricity we didn't use, we have no control of what's being put on us, living in the suburb. And this was our journey, our choice. So I started growing vegetables. We started gardening. We called it permaculture. Um, and then we got curious. What about we stop all this? This is with my husband this time. I didn't know. He was just as adventurous as I am, still is,
Yeah.
and said, "Look, let's stop this corporate ladder building, life, just going from one office to another, Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, and just let's learn how to do slow life, which means let's learn how to actually grow our own food. Let's learn how to perhaps even build our own houses with clay, which, back then we wanted to do earth ships. And so we're like, okay, he found a certificate course permaculture design course here in Queensland. And it was here in an eco village called Crystal Waters. So we actually left everything. I was a director and teacher at my center. It was my prime time of my career. He was well loved and valued in his company, but we decided, no, let's do it before we have children, and let's do it while we've got this momentum of curiosity. So we traveled to Queensland, sold everything, came up by car, and we went and lived in Crystal Waters, supposedly for 2 weeks, got our certificate. And there was something about the land. It was very slow and very much in a space of calmness. And the community that we got to know and love in Crystal Waters was very um, sustainability minded, all about how to live alongside Earth, live alongside community, other people, instead of take, 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 take some more. Um, and so when we experience this new sense of being as a human being, to think and live differently, my husband, he had to actually, you know, he's amazing. He cleaned our toilet, like physically. He had to change the tanks. I had to hose it. It wasn't there was no flush. It was that kind of lifestyle we
Composting.
experienced. It was back
Yeah.
to the basics at some points. Compost toilet. And when we experienced that, there was something that shifted within me, and I really felt slower and more sensitive to actually the vibration of the land. And it was almost like, with the sensitivity that I had experienced in church, I didn't realize it was still happening for me when we lived in this eco village. And so I would get messages from trees, or I would experience something very um, profound that I wouldn't come up with, but this idea would just land about the creek or the water, or the specific area, like you said, the specific spaces here in Australian land where the energy shifts, and if you're sensitive, you can feel it uplift your vibration, or you could feel there's a little bit of, I better not continue walking that way.
Right. Right.
So I had that sense of sensitivity this time with land. And then we bought our home here where I'm sitting in and speaking to you on. And in this land, I was gardening. And in the vision of my peripheral space, I saw this spiritual, he's not physical, but a spiritual indigenous First Nation elder. He had black skin, he had white hair, and he had, like thick um, white eyebrows, and very um, prominent, piercing, but very soft eyes. They almost look like, if you're looking down on planet Earth, they look like they felt that. So I took initiative and asked Creator God, is this safe to talk to this spiritual man that I can see in my peripheral vision? I said yes. So he gave me his name. His name is Jaiwaraba. And since then, for 6 years, he's been sharing with me interesting stories of this land where I live. And he
Mm.
explained to me who he was and what his role was for being here. And for 6 years, he didn't allow me to confirm his stories until there was this young man who was connected to a First Nations elder. And when he said, "Yeah, I know this elder," this young man uh, then was open for me to sharing Jawaraba's story just to confirm, I don't know, this is what I've been given by this spirit. I am not First Nations, so I cannot be sure, but I am curious to find out if this can help a community or this can be confirmed by the elder you knew. Anyway, this story unfolds so that this young man spoke to his elder, and this elder is human, and he's about 76 years old, and he lives very far away from where I live. In fact, he lives Central Australia, very close to Uluru, the in English, the Ayers Rock that people know in the central of Australia. He lives close by there, but just south. And his closest airport would be in Adelaide, a different state. But he would have to drive to that airport for over 1,400 kilometers from where he was.
Wow.
Yes. When he heard my story of Jaiwaraba's sharing with me, and finally, after 6 years of holding it within me and not sure who to share, Jaiwaraba, I could see him. I'm always connected to him. He was jumping up and down when I was sharing it with this elder. And the next day, the young man said to me, well, he's not quite young, but this man said to me, the elder that I'm connected to, he really wants to see you ASAP as soon as possible. And I'm like, yeah, sure. Where does he live? Let's meet. And from that initial wanting to meet that he was really committed to, somehow from not having the money, not having the car, and having to travel, we met, and he shook my hands in 7 days here in
Wow.
where I live, here in my local town. He made it. And between that 7 days, grandmother Enolia, so many interesting coincidences happened. And I was guided again in my bookstore to read this amazing book called Songlines, Tracking the Seven Sisters. And inside that book was the face of this elder who I'm about to meet.
Wow. Wow.
And yeah, and during that time, I was solo parenting, but somehow in 3 nights, I finished reading this book. And so by the time I met this beautiful elder who also invited another elder, there were two of them. I met the two elders, we shook hands, they called my husband, they asked permission to, and just clarified that they're going to work with me. Um, and so together, the three of us, plus another young First Nations Indigenous man that they're going to initiate at the same time together with me and his father, the five of us with my two children um, held this sacred ceremony. And this sacred ceremony, the space that Jai Waraba, the spirit elder, showed us to do it at, was at Crystal Waters,
Wow.
at Eco Village. And so within a span of, this happened all within just 2 weeks, um, actually just 10 days. Within that span, he came, we met, we went to the sacred space. Jaiwaraba showed me where it was. Then this young man, the First Nation young man who was to be initiated as the uh, the torch bearer for the new generation to continue the song lines and the
Hmm.
songs and dance ceremonies. He was the one who confirmed exactly where that space was as well and said, yes, that's correct. It's here because it aligns to that mountain um and the ones behind us, and there was this great peace in my heart, and I knew, and I constantly could see Jawaraba as we were together. He confirmed everything, and he was already starting the ceremony in the spiritual realm, and I was just telling constantly this to the elders. And when we did the sacred ceremony, um, it was my first time to work with the First Nations elders here in Australia. And interestingly enough, this elder, he's quite well respected, and well, both of them, they're both well respected, and um, and somehow I sense that we have had also known each other for a long time because they felt like family, and their faces felt like I've seen you many times before, although this was our first time to meet. Anyway, we did the sacred ceremony, and the messages that Jaiwaraba shared with the group that had gathered there, with the beautiful fire in the middle of us. His main message, and I am allowed to share it, is that uh, it's important to be who you are.
Mm.
And it's important to allow others to be who they are. And when we can see who we are inside, when we can see with our heart's eyes, that's only the time we can also see others outside of us for who they are and have the ability to love them for who they are, but not until we do that for ourselves first.
That's a beautiful, beautiful message. And, I just want to just pause for a second because some of the things that you're saying. So the initial question I had asked you was, how did you receive your gift? And really, what you shared was that you became one with the land. And I really resonate with that because in our busy lives, we're on land and we don't acknowledge and see and feel and know what it feels like differently until we're on the land. And I didn't truly experience that until some of my travels where it resonated with me more than others. The first time that I went to New Zealand, I was like on a high the whole time I was there because I was outdoors every day. I was at the beaches, I was walking the land, I was in the forests. Um, I remember doing drum making there. I spent time with the Waiataha. And so in going to their sacred land and going to their waters and everything, by the time I left New Zealand, I felt like I was just like somewhere else, somewhere
Wow.
else. And that was the first time I ever really understood, truly understood. No, I want to say that's the second time. The first time, believe it or not, was Northern Canada. And I was with my grandmother elder, the first grandmother elder I ever uh, studied with and stayed with. And we would wake up and we would walk the land all the time. We were always outside. And there's something to be said about being outdoors all the time. And not just being outdoors and you know, just like with a purpose going somewhere, but being outdoors and really just allowing outdoors to embrace you, you know, to be able to work with the land and work with, I call Pachamama, but work with the land. and and really just allow yourself to sit still and allow yourself to be, and that you actually will vibrationally feel the difference, and live and embody the difference. And that's what it sounds like you do, is you embody the difference. And the beautiful fact that you have this beautiful, I don't know if you want to call it channeling or mediumship, or if you even want to put an esoteric word to it, but this beautiful elder who is your guide and presents to you the insights and gleaning the wisdom that you share. And you do share wisdom. For our audience who doesn't know, I have experienced it. It's so beautiful. It's such a beautiful gift. And these are simple things. It's just how you chose to live your life in harmony, and that's key. um I think that there are certain areas and lands more sacred than others, just because of how people have chosen to appreciate them, and or not, you know. Um, if they don't, then that vibration is very low, and if when they do, it soars. It's very, very high. Now, I had the greatest gift of being able to walk Uluru. Or
Yes, you
how,
did.
wait, let me correct myself. Uluru, which is the
Yeah.
indigenous name of saying Ayers Rock, because everybody else knows it as Ayers Rock. But that also walking the land was just off the charts phenomenal. It really, really was. I don't know if you've ever been or ever had the opportunity, but for me, in visiting Australia, that was like the pièce de résistance for me of the height. I had always wanted to see it, feel it, touch it, experience it, and boy, did I have a huge initiation in doing so. But it was really something that I think everyone, if they have the opportunity to visit or to go, should do. They have it beautifully set up so that you can walk it, and it's a phenomenal experience. So, have you ever had the opportunity to visit?
No, I have not.
You haven't? Okay. Wow.
No,
So you got to keep that on your list.
I do. Yes, yes, definitely. And you know how blessed, amazing it was for you, grandmother Anoya, because yeah, I met you when you were just about to jump on the aeroplane here in Australia. And your energy and your vibration and how you were, I mean, the first time we physically met, I could feel this elation. Words probably can't really express it, but you were almost like floating and almost like I need to just pull your shoulders down to get you back on the seat. That's how it felt like.
And that's how I felt too. I mean, it's a phenomenal land for me. And having experienced it the way that I experienced it. And to our audience, just so that they're aware, I did not go and just take for granted that I could go. I asked permission from the elders, and I asked permission to be able to do ceremonies before doing ceremonies when going there. And I think that this is really important to convey, because people assume that you can just go and you can just do anything anywhere, and it's like not a big deal, and it is a big deal. You have to ask permission for the land. And if you haven't been conveyed that in the indigenous way, we've all been taught how to ask permission. We've all been taught, you don't do anything with a sense of entitlement. So, even if you stopped and you're not sure what you're doing, but you just ask permission, asking permission from plants, asking permission from trees, asking permissions across the board in nature, because nature is live. Nature is a living being. And so it has an energy, it has love, and it has what it exudes in terms of its energy too. And we need to respect it. And I think that that's the beauty of why you are gifted the way that you are gifted because of that mutual respect and relationship. And we've been talking. I can't believe we're coming up on an hour, but I can't let you go until we actually talk about your work also in terms of your training and your classes, because you bring such a beauty in terms of who you work with and how you work with them. Will you share with that?
Yeah, I would love to. Yes, it would be my pleasure. So, so because I could see, feel, hear, taste, understand, know the spiritual realm. This friend, she was actually a theta healing practitioner. Now, the first time I'm like, a what practitioner? And she said to me, theta theta brainwave is actually the brainwave when we drop down when we're in rapid eye movement, or in other words, we're dreaming. And that's when the
Yeah.
subconscious is open. That's when the mind sleeps and quiets down. And that's when, you can access the subconscious mind, the infinite mind, the quantum field. And I'm like, okay, that's interesting. And she said, and you would be very good at it because you're already tapping into that. You just don't know how to, communicate or connect with it, why it's showing you that thing that it's showing you. And I'm like, okay, that's interesting. Anyway, um, shortcut, I got my basic uh, DNA certificate as a theta healing practitioner. And then I also got my advanced DNA certificate. So, yes, I'm certified as a theta healing practitioner. And so I was able to now have this method of connecting with divine God, with creator, with love, and with the infinite mind, the universal quantum field, and not fall asleep. Because when I slow down my theta brainwave, the first year just doing the methods with the trainings I had, I kept falling asleep. And I'm like, how come I'm so tired? But over time, I kept practicing it. I kept getting better, becoming more sensitive, and I was doing the work within me. I was my first client. And after realizing how different I had become and the triggers that I used to get triggered by didn't charge me anymore or didn't have that same effect, I'm like, interesting. This is the only thing I'm doing. And I could see how different my mind and heart and body has already changed. And so over time, I was sharing it with my husband. I would body scan a person. I've learned how to speak to the body. I've learned also how to get really good at um, getting straight to the heart of the matter. And this is me co-facilitating with creator and with the person's highest self, or their spirit, that gives me permission, like you said, we must always ask permission, because everyone, including nature, has free will. And so when I come into a session with a client today, I ask her permission, his permission, to body scan them, to check their energy. And when they say yes, then with creator and connected to that space of love. And that's also my belief that we are created from love. We are love. We do vibrate that energy. And from there, we create and uncreate um, from that space with creator. I then connect and interpret the messages and the support and guidance that that person's energy is showing me in regards to their intention, in regards to their question. What's going on? I can't put my finger down. Why am I always sick? What's happening with my spine? And then I get shown as well exactly where that spinal root cause of their pain is on their back or their ears. And the interesting and fun bit, grandmother and Oya, is if I've never met them before, like I've had a client from Uruguay and America. I've
Hmm.
never met them before because we just do it on Zoom, and we've only got 30 minutes to do the session. Um, their horse would come through. Their horse would come through, or um, a, a loved one who's already passed would come through, or their mother would come through, or their inner child, their child when they were 5 would come through and tell them the answer and tell them with clarity, this is what you could do, this is what's happening. And if you now have this awareness, you can go on your merry way and choose differently. And the fun thing for me is I've never met them, and they would show me at the end of the session, you're right, this is my black beauty, this is my horse.
Wow.
How did you know? Like, it's not me.
I'm not
It's
surprised. I have to be one of your testimonials because I engaged you in a healing session, and I can say without a doubt it was phenomenal. I had had pain around my knee for a couple of months, a couple of
yeah.
months. And I can't even begin to tell you that I felt the transmute during the session. And then the next day, it was like I went from like 40% to 70%. And each day it kept getting better and better and better and better and better. So I'm here.
Yes.
And I was like, oh my God. And you did get right down to the root cause. I want to share. So you are a woman of your word.
Thank
And
you.
wow, yeah. I think that if anyone has been experiencing pain or anything, they should absolutely talk to you. Absolutely, hands down, talk to you.
Thank
Energy knows no boundaries, and what you do is phenomenal. And you do a little bit more than just that too. You actually teach, and you're setting up your classes to teach and actually have its debut in the next month or two, I believe. Am I
Mhm.
speaking out of turn? Is it okay to mention that?
Yeah, sure. Yes. So I, every time I see a client and they get clarity, the interesting thing is they feel this sense of, or I can see actually what, from my perspective, I see their energy go from this little candle from inside their torso to this big bright sun. Okay. And when they glow energetically, I see it, they glow into a sun. I can't even see their face. And so what happens is energetically, when they shift from confusion, chaos to a sense of self-awareness and clarity, their whole being with their physical and spiritual body goes into alignment actually of who they are again, and everything gets reminded. And that feeling of this beautiful sun, that they look like they're emitting this energy, I can only translate it as that feeling of joy.
Mm,
Joy. It's this whole package of completeness, not having to do, not having to perform, not having to have a mask, not having to justify. It's this, and I felt it the first time for myself, like this self love. It's like I can be okay for just being me,
yes.
and it's this feeling of joy. So I am, yes, you're right. In the next couple of months, I will be launching my classes on learning how to drop into joy as a spiritual bridger coach, and share with people through my different sessions what creator has over time shared with me to simply drop in joy with ease. We don't have to climb, we don't have to go through, it's not gonna, it's more learning how to experience joy on the go. So if you're a business owner, you're an entrepreneur, you're a parent with children, you're an individual that just wants peace and
Yes.
ease in life with whatever you're creating, how to do it from a place of joy and not, having to do it because you should. And so this is
Right.
exactly my passion. And creators told me, yes, it's time to share joy, joy, joy. Okay.
Yes, absolutely. And what a gift you are to humanity. I would love to keep going. We're up to about an hour now, so I'm going to actually leave it open so that you can always come back. So I want to just say thank you. Thank you for sharing your story. Thank you for sharing a part of you that is just so um, needed in humanity. And Jararabar, I want to say his name right. Oh, did I get that
Jai
right? Jai
Jai
Jarabar.
Rabba.
Yes. Thank you for even sharing the story and the intimacy because your being that is with you is just such a personal thing. So truly grateful, truly, truly grateful. And yes, you are that healer, you are that bridger, you are. And what the elders brought forth was a beautiful blessing. So thank you. And
Thank you.
how can people reach out to you? How can they connect with you?
Yes, so I actually have my website. It's roviellejoy.com. And also I have a link tree um, account, and that has all the different links to all the ways that you can connect with me, including a connect call if people just are curious and they don't want to sign up for anything but just have questions. I'd love to sit down, have a cup of tea, and just chat with them, and just get to know me, get to know them, because really my purpose is to really see a world, live in a world with you, I, and my family, your family, where all the beings feel happy, healthy, and safe, and that we have leaders who create spaces and communities and countries where children feel healthy,
Yeah.
happy, safe. And from my little experience, I would like to spearhead it by sharing joy and also encouraging people to remember who they are through spiritual
Well,
bridging.
I'm going to say to you that you may say it's a little experience, but you pack a grand light. So,
Thank you so much. Really
yes, yes, yes.
loved it. Love this time with you.
Love this time with you. So, if you're out there and you've listened to this episode and you know that you want to share it with someone, please do share it. And if you liked what you heard, please like us and subscribe to us. And I just want to say thank you for taking the time to hear the stories that are here on The Infinite Way. And thank you again, Ravielle Joy.
My pleasure, my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me. And I do look forward to joining and sharing and talking with you again, Grandmother Enoya. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. So, thank you again, audience. And this has been another episode of The Infinite Way, where spirituality meets humanity podcast. Thank you and have a beautiful and blessed day. Take care.